this session may be a little shorter than yesterday's, because yesterday we were setting some things up. Mildred's back in the house. And Melissa's in Canada, Key West. Cecilia, my wife and I went up to Vancouver, Canada. All right, we were there for her birthday, and I told her that I got reservations at the St. Regis, which is really this posh hotel, unless you're going to the St. Regis in Vancouver. I had no clue that it wasn't part of the St. Regis. We pull up to the St. Regis in Vancouver, Canada, and the guy comes out, gives me a key pass and says, you need to park across the alley and then you can bring your bags in. And I looked at her. This is for her birthday. I looked at her and go, yeah, honey, it may say St. Regis. I don't think it is St. Regis. So we're just going to have an experience here, and we're going to have to live with it. It wasn't a bad hotel, but it wasn't the posh St. Regis that I thought I was taking her to for her birthday. So needless to say, that cost me an extra birthday gift. But yeah, awesome. San Antonio's in the house. All right, UK, back for part 2. Kathy, awesome to have you all. We've got people from all around the world. I've got South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. Australia, New Zealand, this is really early in the morning for them. And in Australia, it's a special day of celebration, so we may not have as many on there. This is kind of like their version of Veterans Day, and blessing to those that served and that type of thing. So I get that. And we'll go from there. I'm going to not share my screen so I can just speak with you directly right now for a little bit. So here we go. We're at the top of the hour. Let's get started. Welcome to day number 2 of our virtual training series. Live with me, we're gonna take it a little deeper from yesterday. Yesterday we spent a lot of time talking about why is it that our message maybe isn't landing. What is it that's causing our message not to land? And we talked about the 5 levels of sophistication. Today, I want to take it one step further. I'm going to give you a tool that allows you to start to understand how to figure out what your distinction is and how to articulate your distinction. We're going to go through 2 different things today that'll help you put yourself out there. The key here is that I want to make sure that your market knows what your value is. I want to make sure your market also knows how you're different. And I want to make sure your market knows that you are the person to work with. You are the person that is the go-to person. And when we get some of this stuff dialed in properly, what'll happen is that let me just open up the iPad. This is where we start to understand how to connect with our marketplace. Now, like I said yesterday, we'll kind of recap a little bit from yesterday but like I said yesterday, some of this stuff is going to be deeper work than maybe we're used to doing. A lot of times we say, oh, we're going to create an online business, or we're going to sell a course, or I want to be a speaker, or I want to be an author, I want to be a trainer. And I'm going to ask you and invite you, what we're talking about here is how you can be more strategic, how you can be more entrepreneurial, how you can be more of a leader in that space by doing things that most of the people are unwilling to do. That we're going to dig in. I'm going to, just like yesterday, ask you to kind of figure out your market. When you understand where your market is, we understand the language that we can have a conversation with in doing that. So if you're game, let's start. Let me jump to the iPad and we'll start chatting and talking and working through this. So we'll make this happen. All right, so let's just start our thing. So here's the deal. Today, day number 2, we're really focused on how to make sure your market, like I said, how the market knows what you do, how you're different, and why to work with you. We are in a space and in a place where most markets are noisy. Most markets are in a situation where they're saturated. Most markets, the consumer doesn't differentiate between one person and the next unless we force that differentiation, unless we provide it, unless we position it, if you will. Remember I said yesterday that we need to stop peddling tomatoes and we need to start dealing in diamonds. is what we need to do. We need to move ourselves from a commodity, and your content, your knowledge, your wisdom is truly a commodity. And yet a commodity is something that is competitive, but only at the price level. And the worst place to compete is on price. So what did we do yesterday? Let's just recap a little bit of where we were, so we ground us in this. And that our ride for these 3 days, this is a 3-day training or 3-part training. We'll have a couple of other add-on things that I've decided to do here. But the first thing was to create like a thought leader. We talked about that yesterday. Today, we're going to talk about how do you articulate your value distinctly? How do you make that statement? When someone asks you, what do I do? What do you do? You don't hem and haw. I mean, there's so many ways that you can say it. I mean, for me, if I don't want to talk to the person, I just tell them I'm an accountant, and they pretty much leave me alone. So the idea here is, how do we articulate it that we pique the curiosity and we get them to do some things or ask for more information. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about how you deliver like a difference maker. How do you build a business around it? How do you see yourself and build a brand versus just being a creator of content? And so that's where we're going with it. Remember, I said that the point is, I want you to stand out. I want you to have a loyal audience, and I want you to have income freedom. In other words, what we talk about, this idea of having a portfolio of income, we talk about in investment strategy, we say we need diversification. We need diversification of our investments to reduce our risk and to increase the returns and the opportunities and all of that stuff. But why don't we diversify our income streams? Because when we are building something, and we are 3 a.m. in Melbourne, Australia, Carrie, welcome aboard. Thank you for your commitment to your calling, to your message, and to this. So I feel blessed to have you here. So the thing that we need to realize here, sorry, I diverted for a second. So what we really need to realize here is that if I have one income source and something happens, for instance, in 2009, I had a bike accident. I literally flipped a bike. I was going downhill on a bike. I was going probably about 25 miles an hour. And believe it or not, it was a mountain bike, and I was on the street. I was riding down a hill, ready to go up a hill. So I was trying to get as much speed as I possibly could so I could coast up the hill. And next thing I know, my shoelace got caught in the chain. And when the shoelace got caught, the bike flipped, and I flipped, and I came down on my head, and I was completely out cold. So when I woke up from that accident, from that bike accident, I was face down. There was someone with a hand on my back saying to me, my name's Mindy, and I'm a nurse, and I was driving by, and I saw you flip the bike. You landed on your head. You were unconscious. Please don't move. Paramedics are on the way. Well, when the paramedics got there, I actually had trouble speaking, and I had no feeling on the right-hand side of my body. And there I was, my son at the time would have been 19, and trying to figure out, gosh, he's taken care of financially, but I give him the tools to sustain himself as an entrepreneur and do the things right. And the key really became this idea of making sure that you have multiple streams of income, and how I built the business so there was income streams that could come in from my knowledge, my wisdom, and my expertise without me being there to swap the hours for dollars. And that's what I mean by income freedom in doing that. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. So here's the deal. When we don't get it right, the problem is that there's no attention, there's no distinction, there's no position. You're not seen. You're stuck in a crowd, and no one knows that you even exist. But here's the invitation for you. Here's how I think we need to look at this. And this is, I almost said my friend Macklemore. He's not my friend. It would be cool to meet him. But he has a song called 10,000 Hours. And we kind of talked about this yesterday, but he has this song, 10,000 Hours. The words in it are amazing. But there's this one phrase that he says in it. The greats weren't great. And he's talking about painters in the song, but he says the greats weren't great because at birth they could paint. The greats were great because they painted a lot. I mean, think about that, because they painted a lot. So we were not born great. We were not born as thought leaders, but those that are at the top of the game, those that are going to the top of the game, they're going to do it a lot. They're in it for the long haul. They're in it for the long game. It's the reason that we can see a Brendan Burchard, a Simon Sinek, a Seth Godin, a Gabby Bernstein, an Amy Porterfield, a Rachel Hollis. We can see all those people at the top. And if you look behind them, it's really easy to see where they are today. But if you look behind them, you'll see the journey. They did it a lot. They thought a lot. They gave a lot. They crafted a lot. They delivered a lot. And so my invitation to you, and I'd love to hear from you, is that are you prepared to do it a lot? Are you prepared to play the long game? Are you prepared to do what the greats do, as Macklemore says in the song 10,000 Hours? If you're ready to play that long game and that's what you're willing to do, just type a yes in the comment box and let's just so we commit to it. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, it took about 6 months to get myself back in shape again. I was stuttering and all that stuff. It was kind of crazy. But I feel good now. I still have a bike. I even have a Vespa now, which scares my wife crazy. So awesome. So everyone's in the game, long game. Let's take Macklemore's words. Let's do what we need to do to be the leaders in that space. And then yesterday we talked about why the message was missing the mark. I gave you the model of the levels of market sophistication. We talked about how we have level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And depending where your market is, based on the saturation, how much marketing copy, how much advertising messaging they're getting bombarded, they get numb to your messaging, and we need to meet them at the level they're at and above. Most people are playing at a level 2, 3, maybe even a 4 game, but most of the markets are at a 4 and a 5, and we need to speak differently. And it's the reason that we're not getting traction with our marketplace. So when we build thought leadership, and we talked about this here, is that when we build thought leadership, we need to build our thinking, build our portfolio of intellectual property, build our knowledge, our wisdom, our courses, our speeches, our books, so we can speak to all 5 levels. We need a system that allows you to do that, to make that happen, okay? To make that happen. And because when we transcend and move and build things that go all the way up, that's when we make sure that we catch them at any place in their journey based on that. So that's what we talked about yesterday. Now, today, I wanna go one step further, and this is about articulating your value distinctly. So how do we make sure your market knows what you do, how you're different, and why to work with you, okay? How do we make sure that that's the case? And this is one of the challenges that most of us has, is that how do I make that statement? Now, here's the deal. If we don't do this correctly, if we fail to do this, or we don't think about it, I'm gonna have a sip of my coffee. This is my special coffee mug when I do things wrong. And my wife gives me that, you know how they give you that like tilted head look and roll of the eyes and kind of that question of, why would you do that? But it says on here, in my defense, I was left unsupervised. So this is my excuse, all right? I have all kinds of crazy coffee mugs. But so why? Well, if we don't get this right, you're not seen in the marketplace. In other words, if we can't articulate our value, if we can't articulate the transformation, if we can't articulate our distinction, if we can't be relevant in the marketplace, then guess what? We'll be pushed aside. So it's about being relevant. It's about having our messaging dialed in. It's about being distinct. It's about building a structure, a framework, and a method, what I call a unique methodology around what you know, so you become known for what it is you have. Okay? So you're not seen. There's no interest in what you have. They have heard it before, so they're numb to it. They look away. They have no interest in it. There's no conversations. Here's the challenge, though, because the conversions happen in conversations. And so if I can't get in a conversation with my marketplace, if I can't get in a conversation with with the tribe that I want to serve, if I can't speak to the audience that I want to lead or I want to be part of, then there's no conversions, there's no transaction, there is no relationships that are built, and therein lies the problem in moving forward. Then second, when we do this right, you actually stand out. You stand out above the crowd. And I'm not saying that this is an overnight thing. I'm not saying that that's even easy. I am saying that it is important. How do you get seen? How do you stand out? And distinction, and I'll walk through, in fact, let me do this. I wasn't going to do this, but I think this is really important for us to understand. So let me just jump to here and draw something out. One of the challenges is that a lot of times we'll come to a place where we're trying to build content. Here's the challenge. Information, remember we said yesterday, information is a commodity. So information is a commodity. And commodities are competitive only on price. Commodities are some of the same stuff, and it's hard to differentiate. This is where I said stop peddling tomatoes. What happens is that when we start to do this, is that our audience is not looking for information. Information is ubiquitous. Information is easy to get to. Information is readily available. Go to Google. Back in the day, the holder of the information was highly valued. Today, the information isn't held anymore. It's openly available to us. So just being a provider of information, info marketers, there's no value to it. Remember what our audience wants is not our course of speeches, books, or anything. They want the results. They want the transformation. So the real issue is how do we get to transformation from information? And hopefully this framework will help you understand it. So I call it the hierarchy of thinking, is that what we tend to do is we build our content. We build our content in a insufficient way, in a way that doesn't build to transformation. And there's 5 things that we need to have in your content. So whether you're doing a speech, whether you're doing a book, whether you're doing a post, I want you to walk through this as a checklist. So the first thing is that your audience needs to see what you have as essential. In other words, they need to see it as something they actually need. And here's the challenge, is that often because you have a tremendous amount of knowledge, because you have a tremendous amount of experience, because you see things that your audience doesn't see, we try to solve problems that your audience doesn't know about. So what we need to do is first meet them where they're at, solve a problem that they want solved, speak to their current reality first. It needs to be essential to them. They need to see it, otherwise they don't see it as valuable at all. Then we need to take it one step further. Great, I have information that's essential to them, but what it also needs to be, if you want to be a thought leader, if you want to be seen as an expert, is that you need to, and this is not in the materials because I'm going off on a tangent here, but I think it's important. So take a piece of paper out and draw this with me. Stay with me on it. So once we know it's essential, it needs to be expansive. In other words, it needs to grow the thinking on the topic. So if all you're doing is repeating what other people have already done, if all you're doing is taking something else and saying, all right, I'm just going to dress it up in different clothes and I'm going to put it out there and that's it, then you're going to just be, instead of being a thought leader, you'll be seen as a thought repeater. We don't want to be thought repeaters. We want to be thought leaders. Okay. So the idea here is to make sure that you're expanding the thinking by giving new perspectives, new views, new ways of looking at things. And I have a tool in Thoughtpreneur Academy. It's one of the things that I use with my clients and in our training called the Thoroughness Blueprint that helps you build on the knowledge and wisdom and expertise of those that came before to create your own thought leadership so it's expansive. The third step that you need to build into it is it needs to be actionable. In other words, actionable means that it gets them from point A to point B. There's a process involved. Okay, you've given them a process. Now, processes are, your clients don't care about the process. What they care about is the results, but the process gives them certainty and confidence that they can get to the results. Most of the time, what happens is that thought leaders they can get it essential, they figure out it's expansive, but they speak at the 30,000 foot level. I did a live in the group a little earlier about this whole 30,000 foot view thing, but it's conceptual and it's not applicable to go do this 1, 2, 3 to get the results. So make it actionable. And then the fourth, and then there's the fifth step in doing this, is the fourth is about refining it. So now we need to take our content and move it from complex to simple. Okay. How do we do this? We build in frameworks. Diagrammatic frameworks that get people to go, I get it. I can do it. That makes sense. This is how we take the complex and move it from complex to simple. Hopefully this makes sense. If this is making sense to you, let me know by posting that in there. Thank you so much, Linda. It's so great to see you. It's been a while. And then the last step in this process is that your stuff needs to be distinct. This is about your delivery, your story, your journey, your style, that whole piece. Okay, here's where the mistake is made. But if we're successful, when you do this and you walk the path to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that way, you will move your information, your content from information to transformation. You'll actually transcend this, which means that you're no longer a commodity. You're now a premium provider. Okay, but here's the deal. The only way to do this is from the bottom up. We have to go this way. We cannot go from the top down. The mistake that a lot of people make is they think distinction is what drives everything. It is in the marketplace, but we have to build to distinction. Look, I can be distinct. I can get on a stage, I can shave my head, and I can paint my head orange. I'm distinct, but there's no value in that distinction. So this literally builds the value into your distinction, builds your content so it's distinct. We need to build to that point. So this was a bit of a tangent on this, but I think that this will help us in explaining what we're trying to do. So hopefully this makes sense. If you found this of value, let me know what was one of the biggest takeaways for this in here. But this is what I call the hierarchy of thinking model. And we use this as a checklist as we start to build out content to make sure that the content is not just an information dump, but rather a transformation that is being handed over to people. Okay? Awesome. Thank you. So let's go back to the slides and boom. Let's get back to here. That's where we were. And so this is how you're going to get seen. This is how we're going to change and shift the way people see you. And it will build curiosity because people are going to say, tell me more. If we do this properly, if we articulate our value properly, they're going to look at you and go, tell me a little more about that. I want to hear more. And that's what we want. We want the curiosity factor to go up so we can have deeper conversations, more conversations, and do that. The next thing is that it leads to meaningful conversations because now they know your value, now they know your distinction, now they know who you serve, and they know how you offer it up. So that changes the way things will run, which means that, all right, so we need to know a few things. So these are the things that I think are the key core principles. There's 4 of them that I want you to write down to think about as we do this. And the first principle is this: transformation drives value. We talked a bit about it. I did that pre-training on value versus price and cost. You can watch that on the replay page. But point being is that transformation is what drives value. When you talk about something like this, how much are they willing to pay for this compared to that? Okay, they're not willing to pay a lot for a commodity. That's why it's competitive on price only. But transformation, if I can turn around and take someone that has a relationship, that's having challenges in their relationship, and shift their relationship in a 30-minute conversation, in an hour conversation, over a period of time, now they have this deeply meaningful marriage or relationship with their children or relationship with their significant other. How much more valuable is that than just giving information? So we're not in the information game, we're in the transformation game. We truly want to make sure that we're making a difference. Transformation will drive value, and the bigger the transformation, the bigger the problem we solve, the more value you create in making that happen. So the second thing that we need to know, the second principle, is that process gives confidence. And I kind of mentioned this in the thinking hierarchy. When you have a defined process, what I call a proprietary process, which is a piece of the unique methodology umbrella that we want to build, that process gives your customer, your market, certainty. For instance, the process I use to build thought leader businesses, to build brands, authority brands that give you the flexibility to deliver multiple ways to monetize as a portfolio career, to stand out in the places. It's called the Legacy Maker Formula. And there's 3 pillars to it. We'll talk about it more where you can see the whole model. But there's a formula that's used by me, that's used by others, that I've used with clients, that brings things to life. And when we have a process that works, that gets consistent results, that's where the value starts to come in. Okay. Welcome, Jeanette. So here's the thing. So then process with confidence, and then results create certainty. Okay. When you have social proof, when you have results, when you start to get results, they go, it's possible. The reason we want to have the results, and you might say, well, I'm just starting out. I get it. Our job when you're just starting out is to get results. Here's the thing. Let me simplify kind of this thought leader game, if you will. Oops, I don't want to go there. I want to go here. If I look at this, the first thing you're going to actually do, I call it dump it. Okay. In other words, we're going to get everything out of your head. We're just going to put everything out of your head and put it on paper, or have a conversation around it. So we're gonna dump it. I'm not going to organize it. I'm not going to try to put it in frameworks. I'm not going to try to do anything with it. I just want to get it out so it's no longer occupying space up here. Then we're going to chunk it. This is when we're going to try and put them in buckets that make sense, and try to chunk it down. Because, for instance, I've got a ton of points that I can make. I can be here for days if you haven't figured that out. I could be doing this for a while. So, but if I turned around and said, listen, I have a 137-point checklist that I'm going to take you through, y'all would be out of here. You're going, hell, no way am I going to do 137 points. But if I said, there's 3 things you need to master to be a thought leader, we got to figure out what your distinction is. We got to build reach to reach the right people in the right way with the right message. And we have to have the prescription to monetize it. 3 things. You go, I can do it. Chunk it. Okay. Then we're going to turn around and we're going to create the process. So we're going to frame it. We're going to frame a process to get them from point A to point B. Then the 4th piece is we're going to draw it. We're going to create the frameworks. And I think you need 2 frameworks minimum to do this. One, a process framework, one, a sales framework to make that happen. Then we're going to test it, because the proof is in the pudding. Does it get the results? And are you getting the response from the clients? And then once we test it, now we get to run it. Okay. This is all we do. We're going to get it out of our head. We're going to chunk it up. We're going to frame it into a process. We're going to draw it into frameworks. We'll test it, and then we're going to run with it. That's it. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. We'll go deeper. There is a lot more to it because I want the depth of thinking in there to make it happen. But truth be told, that's really all we're doing to make it happen. So the results will create certainty in their lives. And then this last piece is this. I don't want you playing in red oceans. For those of you that haven't read the book, this is a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. If you haven't read the book Blue Ocean Strategy, go get it and read it. This is a book you ought to read every year, every other year. It's all about marketing. We're going to talk about one of the key elements. This is the thing that I actually added in. I think that'll be helpful for you to understand. Blue Ocean Strategy is a phenomenal book, but what they talk about is this. Most of us are dealing in red oceans. And what I mean by that is it's where everyone is competing. So it's shark-infested waters where everyone is trying to go after everyone. Everyone's trying to get their pound of flesh, if you will, versus turning around and saying, why do I want to swim in a red ocean? How do you swim in a red ocean in doing that and trying to compete? It's easier to compete in a blue ocean where there is no competition. This is where your distinction comes in. I'm going to show you a tool that they use there, and I'm going to give you that tool to make that happen. I'm going to answer a question real quickly. Monique asks, how is Draw It different from Frame It? Frame It is framing the process. Draw It is creating a framework, the diagram, to document the process. So hopefully that makes sense. If that makes sense, Monique, let me know. So Blue Ocean Strategy is all about that. So what I want you to do is not be in the red ocean. I want you to be in the blue ocean. Here's how you can do it. So this is the precursor to us getting to the value articulation statement that we're going to get to. And this is something that they call canvas strategizing. Here's the thing. You're in a competitive market. You could have specific competitors, or you could have an industry competition. And so the question is, how are you different? What are they doing? What are you doing differently? In the book, in the book, Blue Ocean Strategy, as an example, they use transportation, Southwest Airlines compared to other airlines. I'm going to show you how this plays out, and then we'll talk about a tool that makes it easy for you to do. So what they did is they said, how is Southwest differentiating themselves in a marketplace, in an industry, from everything else, the other alternatives that the customers have in that industry? And so they look at it and say, what are the things that the customers are looking at? They're looking at price, they're looking at meals, they're looking at lounges, they're looking at seating choice, they're looking at hub connectivity, friendly service, speed, departure freeze. Those are some of the criteria. So my question to you is, what are the criteria in your marketplace that your audience, your people are looking at to evaluate their buying decisions, their connection decisions, the relationships they want? Then you rate yourself based on those criteria. So here they look at it and they say, okay, here's what other airlines do. Okay, other airlines are mid on price. They got meals, they have lounges, you get to choose your seat. They use a spoke and hub connectivity. They're somewhat friendly. Speed, who knows? Depends the airline. And departure frequency is about middle of the road. But then they compare it and they say, well, what does Southwest do? Southwest Airlines, low price, no meals, no frills, no lounges, no seating choice. It's carnival seating. Just get on there. You're A, B, or C, or whatever it is. Hub connectivity, they do a little bit different so they can have more frequent departures. Friendly service, they're known for being friendly. They're known for being fun. Speed, typically speed and more departures. So what that does is it allows them to see where their points of differentiation are. Now, that's just airlines, but you know what? Some people don't like airlines. So the competitive element to them is the car. They can use a car. You got to look at what are the alternatives for that for your marketplace, and what does that look like? And the car looks like this, but now on a graph, hopefully you're following along with this, on the graph, you get a chance to see where your points of differentiation are. To be able to look at this and go, this is where I'm different, this is where I'm different. And so my marketing messaging is going to speak to that differentiation. So let me know if this makes sense. Now I want to show you an example. I'm going to show you an example in the thought leader space. Okay. High performance humor. Yay. Southwest. Absolutely. Awesome. So let's just look at something in the thought leader space. This was one that I did for the thought leader space. Now, we could change the criteria, we could change the code, the scoring and all that stuff. But if you just look at this, and pick it out, you can look at it and say, all right, so you've cataloged your unique genius, okay? In other words, I've taken my insights, I've dumped it, I really know exactly what it is I know, so it's very, very different. I have signature frameworks, things that are diagrams that I got known for, like hedgehog concept or the urgent versus important quadrant model, or the legacy maker formula in my case, the thinking hierarchy in my case, the levels of saturation, those kinds of things. You have a proprietary process that's documented. You have a unique methodology of delivery, process, frameworks, and insights. You have known messaging. You have a loyal following. You command premium prices. You have different ways to deliver. So we can change as published author. We can change any of these, but point being is that I can now evaluate myself and say, what are the ones that my audience are looking at? And let me score myself. Let me score myself to see how this plays out, okay? And that's what we did. Now what happens is that you can look at it graphically and say, here's where my points of differentiation are. Here's why I'm different. Here's why you should work with me differently. This will give you a picture in a way to do it. So does this make sense? If this makes sense and you're finding this of value, let me know in the comments real quick while I take a drink, because I got a gift for you. How many of you, the other thing that I want to ask is, how many of you have ever done this in your own business? Because remember I said we're going to do the things that other people won't do. And this is the kind of stuff that we do with the people that we work with to help them differentiate and define what it is that's different about them. Yeah, I love the hearts. Keep them coming. All right. Awesome. So here's the thing. I want to make this really, really easy for you. So for those of you that, especially those of you that are here, how would it feel and how would it be if I gave you something that looked like this? So here's what I want to give you. This is one of the tools that we use in Thoughtpreneur Academy. It's one of the things that we do. But to make this easier for you, now all of a sudden you get a chance to go into, this is an Excel template. And literally you have your, I don't know if I can draw on this. I may not be able to draw it. But you have your business right here. Oh, I can. Oh, I love this. Technology is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Let's use orange. All right. So I have my business right here. I have my industry or my competitors right here. Okay. And I just list out the criteria and then I rank them. And this template that I'm going to give you will automatically draw your graph. So you now know where your points of differentiation are. Would that be of value to you? Would that be helpful to you? Okay. So what I'm going to do, oh yeah, hell yes. I like it, Nikki. All right. So here's the deal. What I'm going to do is, after this is done, I will post it up in the group with a link so you guys can download this and you got this to use. It wasn't something yet, as I'm having fun. So it wasn't something I was going to teach in this segment, but I really think that it sets you up properly to start looking at what your value articulation statement is. What are the things that we need to be doing? It's something that we do with the folks that we're working with to set them apart, to understand that so we can speak it. So this will become part of your homework is to to build this out and figure this out. You may look at your competitors, you may look at the industry as a whole, but let's try to find out if your lines are coinciding with the industry and your competitors. Guess what? There is no differentiation. You're a commodity. Let's find a way. Let's define it. Let's make it happen. Does that make sense? Awesome. Yahoo. All right, so let's keep going. This is so that's a gift to you. I'll make sure that we get it to you up probably by the end of the day to do that. That way you have the opportunity to start to define that, which leads me to this second piece, which is really what I wanted to get you right now, and that is this idea of the value articulator. So this is, again, a framework that we have. It's a model that is built around a couple of different things that I think are important for you to understand. Because how many of you heard, if you've heard one of these terms, unique selling proposition, value proposition, or elevator pitch? If you've heard one of those terms in the past, do me a favor, just put a 1 in the box and let me see it, and then we'll jump into this so I can walk you through why this is really important to do. And this is, I'm going to be on page 8. Is it page 8? Yeah, page 8. Page 8 of the action guide. The other stuff wasn't in the action guide because I added it. I'm just, all right, cool. So here's the thing. This is what I call the value distinction paradigm. So what we have is a situation where you get told, and this happened to me, oh, you need to have, what's your elevator pitch? And so what ends up happening is that we create this elevator pitch. Okay, and that elevator pitch is really around the who and the what you do. Okay, first off, I don't know how this elevator pitch thing works. Okay, if someone, I'm in a enclosed metal cage with someone I don't know, and they got 30 seconds and they're trying to pitch me on something, I'm probably not buying. Okay, so, but the idea here is it focuses on who and what. It doesn't focus on distinction and value. It leaves something off the table, which is a challenge. The idea here then is they go, okay, well, what you need is a unique selling proposition, a USP. So they tell you to go get a USP. And so you go out and you get this USP, and the USP is all about your distinction. Unique selling proposition. This is how I'm distinct. So great, now I know you're distinct, but I still don't know who and what if we just use a USP without the elevator pitch. This is where I started to see that the weaknesses and the problems are. So now they turn around and they say, okay, well, all right, you need a value proposition. What's the value proposition, they ask you. And you go, okay, great. Well, the value proposition really is about the transformation you offer. But if you look at it, the USP doesn't talk about the who and the what. The transformation talks about the value, but not the distinction, and maybe not the who and the what. Maybe a little bit about the what. But point being is that an elevator pitch, a unique selling proposition, or a value proposition leaves things off the table. The idea here is this, is that if I truly want to have value distinction in the marketplace, what I need is a statement that allows me to raise the awareness of what it is I do, to position me as the person to do it, and to build demand for what I do. When we create a statement that combines the value from the value proposition, the distinction from the USP, and the who and the what from the elevator pitch, into a succinct statement, we raise awareness, we build positioning, and we create demand for what it is we have. And this is the thing that I think a lot of folks find missing. And so what I want to give you is a tool and a template. It's a fill in the blanks template that builds all of this in a succinct statement. And I'm going to have you do it, but I'm going to give you some examples to bring it to life. Okay. So that brings me to this here, which is the value articulator template. This should be on page 9. Now, a part of this, I give credit where credit is due. This is something that thought leaders should do, that when you learn something from someone else and you build it on the shoulders of those, remember it's expansive, that you give credit. A portion of this I learned from my very close friend, Brendan Burchard. And then I refined it and expanded it to build in and connect to all of these elements that are here, okay? So the question is asking yourself and answering, I help X, okay, which is who do you help? Do Y, okay? This is the what, the who and the what. This is the elevator pitch piece of that, okay? So that Z, this is the transformation, okay? This is the transformation, which is the value proposition piece. Unlike A, because of B. A and B are all about the distinction. So in this one statement, when you put it together, now you can use this statement when you're introduced. You can have them introduce you this way when you're speaking. You can do it on podcasts. You can have it on your website. But when you're good at this, what ends up happening is that you clearly define who you help, what you do, the transformation and value you provide, and the distinction you have. We effectively can make sure that we have all of these in place to raise awareness, build positioning, and create demand. If that makes sense, let me know. All right, cool. Because I want to give you some examples now. So let me go back to our slides and let's give you some examples on how this plays out. Okay, this first example is an example that I use in one of my businesses, okay? And that is, I help experts, okay, people such as yourselves, position themselves as difference makers so there's my X and Y. I help experts position themselves as difference makers so that they have more impact, income, and freedom. Okay, so there's the result, the transformation, impact, income, and freedom. And now I get to the distinction. Unlike many focused on marketing only, because I'm not focused on marketing because I want to play the long game. Marketing is transactional. We build it through compelling content, powerful delivery, and influential positioning because that's the long game. So I want to build positioning, which is a relationship with a market, relationship with an industry, relationship with a tribe, a community, a society, those that we do. So I help experts position themselves as difference makers so that they have more impact, income, freedom. Unlike many focused on marketing only, we build it through compelling content, powerful delivery, and influential positioning. That's an example of how this can be played out. Let me give you another example. Okay, this is one that I do in my entrepreneur space. I help entrepreneurs create meaningful and profitable businesses so that they have financial freedom and peace of mind. Unlike many focused on the bottom line only, we build it through values and impacting others in a positive way. Okay, just another way to articulate it. It creates the difference. It creates the positioning, and that. Now here's this with my CPA side. I help taxpayers in valuation disputes so that they have better resolution results, litigation, and that kind of thing. Unlike other valuation professionals, I've got the unique perspective of having worked on both sides. So I create the distinction. So let's look at a couple of clients. I'm going to, and maybe what I'll do for you is, along with posting the if you'll find it helpful. Along with posting the Excel template for the strategy canvas, I'll take some of these examples and post them into the group also, so you have something to work from. If that'll be helpful for you, let me know. Here's Chris Beltran. He's a PR guy, great dude. He came to me and says, look, here's what I do. I help entrepreneurs become more intentional with their brand so they can gain the trust. I'm going to read this because the trust they need to change what they deserve, charge what they deserve. Unlike many others focused on marketing alone, we build strong brand foundation that attracts ideal clients. So that was his starting point. And then this is what he ended up with. I help entrepreneurs create intentional brands so they attract the ideal clients and charge premium fees based on a strong brand foundation instead of tired marketing tactics. To the point, succinct, and gets it done. Now he's got a brand statement, okay? Years of experience can be a differentiator, but I try to look for something else also, because then you're differentiated simply on age or years of experience. So what did the years of experience give you that gives you the distinction that sets you apart? That's where I would look at. Let's look at, this is what Chris said. He says it strategically gives you the ability to highlight your value in the marketplace. Not only is this framework straightforward, it empowers you to share your message confidently. And I'm connecting with my audience on a deeper, more authentic level now. That's the point of this. Let's look at Teresa Cantley. So she had this long one that said, I help small business to scale their business and transform their brand by helping them see the bigger picture of social impact. They are creating aligned teams. They are building and thriving profitable business. They're developing, unlike others, solely focused on financial statements. We focus on impact and connecting the community. So we refined that. We drilled it down. We got rid of the stuff that doesn't need to be there. We say, I help small businesses scale their brand so they can be more profitable and more efficient. Unlike those that focus primarily on numbers, we focus on impact, community connection, and through strategic merging of digital and corporate strategies. Very clear, very succinct. Do that. One more, let me give that to you. And that is Tanya. I help passionate female solopreneurs build and grow sustainable businesses by continuously providing them with expert knowledge and structure, as well as access to like-minded women instead of others who are focusing on strategy or marketing alone. Okay? Completely change it. I facilitate high-touch masterminds for female solopreneurs so they can get the support and insight they need to build and grow their business. Unlike others who focus solely on marketing strategy, we create a supportive environment for women to connect, collaborate, and create. Okay? This is what I want you to do. I want you to go out and I want you to build your value articulation statement. First off, if we look at this, let me just go to here. I want you to first build this, your strategy canvas. I'll send that to you guys later. But then I want you to move in and come up with your value articulation statement. Let's figure out how you're going to articulate your value, your distinction, who you help, and what you do in a succinct statement so you have the ability to articulate it. So here's your next steps. This is complete the articulator. I'm also in here going to say, since we added something, sorry, I'm adding things to you, complete the strategy canvas. Remember I said we're going to do work. I want you to have things working for you and not just sit back and go, that was great information. We want it to be actionable. I want you to do your strategy canvas. So that's going to be a 1A. This will be 1B. And then I want you to post your value statement in the group so we can help you out. We can refine it. We can define it, but it also gets it out because now you state it out into the universe the way it is. And then I'm going to invite you to help the others as they're defining it and everything. So if you're willing to commit to that, if you're willing to commit to that, let me know by typing yes in the comments. Are these helpful to flip into a third person when a short bio is needed? Yes. I'll also, Nancy, this is a great question. So hang on that question. Make sure that I get to it in the Q&A. There's something else that I want to bring to your attention also. So those are your next steps. Then when we come back tomorrow, we're going to spend some time doing some things. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about the difference between being a creator and a brand and a business. I want you to be a brand or business because the creator plays the short game. The brand or business plays the long game. We've already committed to playing the long game, 10,000 hours, as Macklemore says. The greats were great because they did it a lot. We're going to do it a lot. We're going to make it happen. I will give you the criteria, the differences. When we come back tomorrow, we're going to fill this in to make that happen. And then tomorrow, we're going to dig into how do you create like a thought leader that you own a market, that you're in high demand and you're highly valued. I'm going to walk you through the Legacy Maker formula. I'm going to walk you through the 3 pillars of it, of distinction, reach, and prescription. I'm going to give you the 4 things you need to do in each. So I'm going to basically tell you, how do you get distinction? What do you need? How do you build reach? What do you need? And how do you get prescription? How do you monetize what do you need? We're going to go through that, because now if we understand our marketplace from yesterday, we understand the language and the level, today we figure out how we can detail and specifically talk to our market in a distinct way on our value, on our distinction. And tomorrow, let's talk about the model. Let's talk about building it. Let's talk about what it takes to elevate and become a brand instead of just a creator of content. Because remember, we showed that it's not about the content that matters, because that is information. It's a commodity. It's about the transformation we create with the content that matters, and that we're going to walk you through. You went through the thinking hierarchy to make that happen. So hopefully this makes sense in doing that. So let me know. This is legendary. Thank you so much, Mel. Oh, you guys are awesome. So let me do this. We're at that point where we've got Q&A, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can see, so you'll see me. Let's look at some questions. If you have questions, tomorrow morning we are gonna be in this again, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're gonna go to part 3 of our training. In the meantime, I want to answer questions. We'll make sure that you get access to the replay. I will get you the strategy canvas template so you can do that. I'll get you the examples of the value articulation formula so you can work from that. But I want to see you posting this stuff in the group and having a conversation, because this is where, remember, conversations are where everything happens. So let's have some conversations. So let's make that happen. All right. So just some thinking to do. I get it. So let me just go to a question on the value articulation formula that was asked about, hey, can we flip it to third person to use it for a bio? So I have some strong opinions on a lot of things, if you haven't figured it out. And one of it is the bio. I don't think, so here's the mistake that people will make. And I've done this, I did this early on. And being a speaker, and I've been speaking since the 90s to build my business. And I would give them the bio, and what do? They go to the podium, okay? And then they take the bio and say, Mel has been an accountant for 10 years. And they start like reading it. And like, what do? They take the audience from an experience to a morgue. And now you hit the stage, whether it's on a podcast or speaking, and it is horrendous. And what they don't understand is that those that introduce you, need to set the emotion, set the expectation, set the direction, so you can nail it and hit the stage or hit the broadcast, hit the podcast, whatever it is, at a level. So 2 things I would think about is one, the bio is great from a biography perspective. If you're trying to use the bio for an introduction, for a connection, for how someone puts you out there, or you're going to introduce yourself, no one wants you to read your resume. Create an introduction that really allows you to elevate yourself in a specific way. I do have something, I think it's on my website. It's called the Introduction Amplifier. That gives you a template, a fill-in-the-blank template it's one of the things that we'll use in Thoughtpreneur Academy. So you create a template for someone to go introduce you. So literally, when I just did this keynote, the 20-minute keynote that I did, I said, here's my introduction. Don't stray. Don't change it. Just get used to it. And that's all I want you to do. Because I know the hot buttons that I want to have hit, and I know the position emotionally, logically, and psychologically where I want the audience before I start to talk. And if you don't have a good introducer, now, in some cases I don't do it because people like James Wedmore, Brendan Burchard, Chalene Johnson, Bo Eason, they know how to introduce an audience because they understand the experience is important. So they know how to introduce the speaker. And so I don't really concern myself with it. But when I'm going somewhere and I'm unsure about it, I actually will create and give them that introduction and say, work from an introduction. So just my point is that an introduction and a bio are two different things used for two different purposes, and they're not the same, but you use your value articulation statement to try and make that happen. So yeah, you can do that. So hopefully that helps. Is that true? We are predictably going into the red ocean in a price war environment. What do you mean, is that true, Alexis? Is that true? We are predictably going into a red ocean. I think that it depends on the marketplace. I mean, some markets are red oceans. If we're trying to build an online course, if we're a life coach, that's a red ocean. How are we standing out? If we're trying to, so it just depends. Health and fitness, all of that stuff is red ocean. How do we stand out? How do we find ourselves in the blue ocean? How do we bring that distinction in place? How do we build transformation above and beyond those that have come before us? How to apply when you are also using a framework, for example, a coaching model that others are using, so you create your difference. So, Nikki, this is a great question. So you're using someone else's coaching model. The differentiator there is not the system itself. So that's the mechanism, but your delivery of the system, who you serve, your background, and your expertise in how you bring that to life. So I can have the same system. For instance, one of my businesses historically is about me doing valuations, and there's a lot of people around the country and around the world that value businesses for a living. But how did I differentiate myself? How did I push my billable rates to a point where I'm making 5 and 6 figures for the work that I'm doing? And it's because of my delivery, it's because of my results, and because I positioned myself in a way that people saw me as this unique person that had a level of understanding and command of the industry that I do, but at the same time, others still do, but they didn't position themselves effectively. So we need to find that distinction. It's not in the process of coaching. It's in the transformation. It's who we do it with, and it's the baggage, if you will. One of the processes I take people through in Thoughtpreneur Academy is what we call a inverse paradox. We literally go back to your past and we look at the things that have happened, and we use that to develop your unique DNA, that fingerprint that's your unique brilliance, and we bring that to bear to say, here's why we're different. Even if we're using the same thing, even if we're getting the same result, we come at it differently and we attract differently. So awesome. No, I'm not finished, Celia. I'm still going. Refresh your screen. Hopefully that'll help. Let's see what other comments have come in. Can I see all the comments and questions? All right. Let me go back. Absolutely. Angela, thank you. Training is truly epic. Thank you, Ellen. I have a client called Awesome Karen. Real distinction in my book. Thank you. Ellen's asking, how do you develop a diagrammatic frameworks? It seems that some people are naturals at this, but I am not. So great question, Ellen. I wasn't a natural at it either, but now I think in frameworks, which is kind of crazy. So I'm going to invite you to do this, at least just to start. and I don't want to give you more homework, but I'm going to give you more homework. Go to my website, melabraham.com. The opt-in there is for the framework formula, and it's going to give you the 4 elements of a properly done diagrammatic framework. There are 6 types of frameworks we can create for different reasons. You need, I think, 2 of them to make it come to life. One is around your process, which takes them from complexity to simplicity, that gets them to go, I get it. It's kind of like the urgent versus important framework that Stephen Covey did. The other one is a sales framework. It is a framework, it's called what we call a value visual, that gets them to realize why it's important for them to work with you. And so with those 2 frameworks, you can do others, and I do a lot of them, and you see me doing a lot of them, but those 2 frameworks are enough to get you started. If we dump your insights, we chunk them up, we frame them into a process, a proprietary process, and now we create the frameworks to make it go, then we refine your ability to deliver it. It doesn't matter how you deliver it. Online, offline, speaking, writing, video, you've got it nailed. But I would do that. Let's just start there and we can go from there. Okay. Hopefully that helps, Ellen. So valuable. I'm speaking at a largely military conference, so this is really helpful. Oh, they love the structure, so this will help. How do you apply when you are also using a framework, for example, a coach? Okay, we talked about that one. Thank you so much. Really helps. Thank you, Nikki. Great stuff. Very helpful. Mine did too for a minute. Okay. Great info. It's difficult to put it in one statement. I could write a life story, LOL. Linda, we're going to have to refine it down to a statement. We'll get the life story later. All right. There's no on. Okay, Jeff, I'll make sure that we get you the intro amplifier worksheet. So we'll get that dialed in. Difference between what I help with and B, I have trouble with this. Desiree, give me a little more detail because I'm not understanding the question. Let me see if I can help you out there. What if you coach in a delicate area, grief and loss? So here's the thing, Susan. I think that you still have the opportunity to frame your distinction, frame your value, frame the transformation, even if you're in a delicate place, grief and loss. It's so needed, and so often we look at something that is complex like that and challenging like that. In their eyes, if I think about your audience, they don't see an end in sight. They are challenged, and they are wondering, how do I get past this grief? How do I, in fact, in a week or so, it's the 9-year anniversary of the loss of my pops, my dad. And yeah, it's a delicate area. However, if you can give them a pathway, if you can draw a picture for them, if you can give them a process that allows them to process that grief, man, it's going to be hugely valuable. You're serving at a place where they need it the most. And so I think that is huge. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, Kathy, you're right. Corporate consultants do it a lot, use frameworks all the time. In fact, Harvard Business School will not hire an instructor if they don't use frameworks. It's part of their contract. So it's hugely important. And I think I have trouble with this. The difference, what I do to help and distinction. Still not understanding that. Try to download the framework, not working. All right, Monique, you can shoot me a note afterwards. I'll make sure we get it to you. So happy to see you watching with me. Mel is truly brilliant. You guys are so nice. Difference between what I help with and the distinction. So okay, I think I get it now. Desiree, is that what's the problem you solve? What's the solution you provide? Okay. And how do you do it uniquely? So there's a lot of people that will help you lose weight, but how do you help them lose weight in a unique way? There's a lot of people that help people build relationships. How do you do it in a unique way? So what we need to understand is that there's what we do and there's the way we do it that creates the distinction. And that's what I'm trying to get at. I agree, Anna. Elevator pitches always sound a bit wooden in my experience, lots of complex terms. And yeah, it's all industry speak. You know, we did sometimes say it to impress ourselves, but the point is if I don't get someone to go, tell me more, then it was a useless statement. And so I want to create something that gets people to say, hey, tell me more. All right, I'll have to figure out the framework one. I'll make sure that I post it on. Okay. Want the framework? Keep scrolling lower. There's another framework section. Click to learn. Let me see if I can pull it for you. I'll post. So I have on my list. Let's just see. I have on my list of things that I need to post. I want this way. You all think I'm organized this way. So things I need to post. So I need to get you the framework, the articulator examples, and the canvas, and the intro amplifier. Cool. I know what I gotta get you, and a replay. All right, so we're gonna get the replay up and roll them for y'all too. So hopefully that helps. Thank you, Maggie. All right. Nancy, I love this. I'm a service dog expert that needs to reach different groups, from veterans to the federal VA, community to ADA, campus college, all involved in the influx of untrained dogs claiming. What aspect of your training do I need to focus on today will help me with an upcoming conference? I've developed a proprietary system for determining need and supplying authentic trained service dogs. Does that make sense? I get confused with where to focus. So first things first, can you succinctly state, Nancy, this is a great question, and can you succinctly state the transformation, the problem you're solving in doing that? So, and the other thing to think about is that if you're talking about your whole program or you're talking about a keynote. For instance, when I did that 20-minute keynote, I knew that the only thing I can do in 20 minutes is give them 3 points, 3 stories, and 3 takeaways. That's it. If I had 90 minutes, I can go deeper like we've gone here. If I have 3 days, which some people have attended my 3-day programs, I can go even deeper. I've got a 2-day framework lab that is small group. I can go deeper. So we got to look at the context of what you're doing. But my point, though, Nancy, is to sit back and say, all right, what's the overarching message? What's the overarching solution? Developing your proprietary process, building a framework from it so you can deliver it in 20 minutes, 2 days, 3 days, or a 12-chapter book. That's the key. But I think that what you need to focus in on first is the dumping and chunking of your stuff, so we can try to, and you may have already done it because you say you have a process. If I had a chance to look at it, it might be helpful. But I think that's the key, is first figuring. Let me phrase something else for you. This may help also. The problem with most thought leaders is not what we say, it's what we don't want to say. It's figuring out what we shouldn't say. We put too much into it. So here's a test for you, Nancy. You and I are going to sit down, we're going to have coffee. We're going to spend 2 hours together. We're going to talk about service dogs. We're going to talk about the need for service dogs. And you want me to have a specific outcome. So number one, what's the outcome you want in those 2 hours? 2, in order to get the outcome, what are the 2, 3, or 4 things you need me to know in those 2 hours? Knowing that when I walk away from you in those 2 hours or those 3 hours, you will never see me again. But you gave me the gift of the knowledge that you know will change the way I see things and do things based upon the solution you want to provide. Focus on that first. Everything else is secondary. Think in layers. We build our content in layers, 101, 201, 301, 401 versions, and we need to do it in that way. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Build authority, become. Thank you for giving so much. Thank you, Nikki. I don't have a program yet. I'm about to do a keynote, hopefully. I want to become a media go-to expert. Do I keep at each segment? I haven't formally written the process. I used it as a consultant, but need to. All right, so I want you, that's great. That helps me out a lot, Nancy. So a couple things. First off, I want you to document it. I want you to write it down. Something happens when you write it down. Then I want you to try and deliver it and see two things: how it lands for them and does it get the response you were looking for? And two, how it feels for you to deliver it. Because if those two don't coincide, in other words, it lands great for them, but it doesn't feel good for you, ain't gonna work. If it feels great for you, but it doesn't land for them, ain't gonna work. We have to be in parity. So we need to start somewhere. And we don't need to develop this whole program, because we can use a beta process or a pilot process to develop the program. But at first, let's just do the 3-hour test and say, what's the overarching message? What's the overarching takeaway or solution I want to provide? What are the 2, 3, 4, or 5 maximum things that I need to know to make that happen? How do I want to deliver it? And then let's test it out. Hopefully that makes sense. Thank you, Trudy. Chris, I didn't think you would top yesterday's training, but you did. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Uh-oh. That means I got to top today's training tomorrow. We're going to make it happen. We got a lot coming tomorrow. So, all right. So here's the deal. If you have questions, if you have other things that come up, post them here. Let's get them answered. I'm trying to get through them as fast as I possibly can. I got some things to get to you now, I know. We'll get them to you. I'll post them in the group. You'll be able to download them, the resources, and to make a difference out there. Remember, I feel like this is a gift to have you on board with me, to doing things that we're doing together to make a difference in the world together as an army of difference makers with a common goal of improving society, improving people's lives, and making a difference. So thank you for being here. I will see you back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Homework done. Download it, do it. Let's get it done. Let's start moving you forward. And tomorrow we're going to talk about how do you build a business around it. All right? You guys have an incredible, incredible day. And I'll talk to you all soon. And I'll talk to you online. Let me know. Post, say hi. All right? Talk to you all soon. Cheers.